Stock markets plunged, oil prices crashed, all while the COVID-19 coronavirus continues to spread. How much of a dent is the outbreak putting on the Canadian economy, and what does this mean for your pocketbook? Let's make sense of some of this. It's a turbulent day with BNN Bloomberg's Amanda Lang. She joins us from Toronto. So, Amanda, TSX saw its largest drop since 2008 today. Similar plunges in markets around the world. Then there's the oil market crash, COVID-19 fears. How big of a gut punch is this for Canada and for global markets?
Obviously didn't put too fine a point on it there. This is a crisis, and we were already heading into a crisis before Saudi Arabia messed about with the price of oil on the weekend. What we knew was that even if coronavirus resolved tomorrow, even if all future health outcomes were great, we still have an effect because China shut itself down and our supply chains have been affected. We're waiting for that to show up in our economy, but we know it's coming and central banks are acting ahead of it. So we already knew global recession was a possibility here. The worst case scenarios are really bad. The question is, where do we land in the middle? Then you throw into the mix what happened with the price of oil. Saudi Arabia and Russia couldn't agree on how much oil to pump. Saudi Arabia basically said, we're going it alone. We're going to flood the market with oil. The price did what you would expect, which is fell off a cliff, the likes of which you've hardly ever seen. And not just the government of Alberta, all of the energy producers globally, but certainly in Alberta and elsewhere in Canada, but also the federal government have made assumptions about how much money they will make on oil revenues. And those are out the window unless this thing turns around fast. It could. Saudi Arabia could change its mind. But today, that was the crisis that for our country separated us a little bit, even from the global wreckage that was stocks.
Yeah, and a lot of people are kind of taken aback when there was a halt, put on the market, the circuit breaker. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, really, this is a way of trying to keep the market orderly. Some of what goes on is human emotion. So trading starts happening in a cascading fashion. But right now, the markets are so run by computers and programs that you actually need to literally stop them to allow everything just to pause. So 7% decline is the first level at which markets stop for 15 minutes. And then they reopen. 13% would be another longer break, 20%, and the markets would shut down for the rest of the day. We fortunately didn't get 13 or 20. 7 was enough. When markets reopened, they were a little more orderly. We did see a little bounce back before they declined again. It's just a way of kind of cooling things down a little bit, because on a day like today, I can tell you a lot of people will be saying, oh, is there value out there? Stocks are selling off. Are they cheap now? Today was a day where when you see this kind of indiscriminate selling, every sector, every stock, it's a day to get out of the way. This is not a pretty thing. It's ugly. It's going in only one direction. It'll find a bottom. It'll turn around. No doubt about that. It was not going to happen today.
Yeah, and Amanda, it's only Monday. I mean, is there anybody speculating how long we're in for this ride?
One of the funny things about the markets is you really don't know. And let me offer up just a glimmer of good news, and you'll hear this from health officials, even as we in Canada absorb the terrible news of our first COVID-19 death, and even as we hear that Italy has now shut down the whole country, not just the northern region. So in other words, there's still real ramifications of this thing. The news out of China has been slightly better, right? We've seen a tapering off. So in isolation, you would have said that shows you a little bit of a curve of how this thing might go. So people I've talked to said before the oil breakdown, before we saw markets really panic like this, that would have been the beginning of reasons for optimism. Maybe there's an end in sight. Maybe it's a month. Who knows how long it is? But if we judge by China's experience, you can start to measure it. When you see people back in the markets buying things, saying, now it looks inexpensive, I want to own that stock for the long term, and this is a good price, that's when you get to sense that the kind of rational thinking is back. Right now, there's just so much fear. There's still so much unknown, unfortunately, that's really what's driving things. Until that's over, it'll keep driving things.
Okay, Amanda Lang, thank you very much.
Sure.